I remember when I was going through the transition of freelancing from like when I was becoming basically full-time acting, and then I had the human design that was sort of on the side as well, which, you know, was wonderful. But doing that transition, it was hard because you're so conditioned to how society is and how society wants you to work, which is that, you know, you've got to get up at a certain time in the morning. You've got to have all your thing planned out, all of that sort of stuff. Now, yes, those things are there to help you. And for sure, it gives you a contrast, but it doesn't always play into your best energy either. Yeah. And I think that's so important. Understanding these parts of yourself and how you work will allow you to approach being an entrepreneur, approach your business in a way that suits you.
This is Inspired Founders, a podcast that helps you find your true north in business and beyond. I'm Priscilla Skippington, a soul-led entrepreneur passionate about sharing the wisdom of world-leading business minds who have walked the path before us. From their toughest challenges to their greatest triumphs, we explore the stories that have shaped their journey and defined their future. Together, we discover the resilience and redemption it truly takes to achieve success, make a lasting impact on the world, and live a life that is truly fulfilling.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Inspired Founders with me, Priscilla Skippington, and our beautiful guest today, Rebecca Bellavia.
Yes,
I was told to say it like that. Today, I'm so excited. I've known you for years and I've seen you through multiple journeys, and you are a beautiful actress, but you also have a lot of knowledge in the human design space, which is what I'm wanting to get into with you today and hear how you discovered human design, what it's now led you to in your life, and now why you're now helping other people uncover their designs and uncover themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a wild ride, like a wild ride. And I think that's what this whole life is about, is discovery. And when I met you, I was at the start of what I would say was my kind of like awakening and awareness journey. So no, of course you've seen like everything, and you've seen all of those colors that have come out. And
all beautiful.
Oh, yeah. Aren't they just? But yeah, human design was one of those things that when you're on that kind of journey, you have certain things that really spike your interest or are profound and give you an extra awakening. Human design to me was one of those things. And it was one of the things that really took charge in all of that space. You know, we had certain books and things like that you would read and you're like, whoa, this is amazing. Yeah. This person I've met, this practice, like all of these things. But human design was one of those things that I went, whoa. I literally went down the rabbit hole. It felt like a black hole in a good way. Like went down the black hole and just, wow, flooded with knowledge. I think that was it. It was the most amazing experience, and now is something that shows up in my life daily. It's something that I feel like I've got almost a little bit of a superpower, because I'm able to see people from a different perspective, a different space, a space that not a lot of people would consider to kind of look at, I think, because and we call it the energetic space, and I think that people are still kind of finding their way in their energetic journey, and being able to apply that to this 3D world that we live in is huge.
So talk to me about, when did human design come into your life? Where were you at? Was there a bit of a crossroads? Was there something that happened that kind of took you down the path to discover human design?
Yeah, I think so. The first time I heard about human design was actually through an ex-partner. His mum had got really into it. She was also a projector.
Okay.
So for those that are listening, Priscilla is also a projector. She's actually the same as me. So we're both a splenic projector, which is why we vibe so much. And like
we just get each other.
Yeah, we just get each other. And that is such an interesting thing for projectors. But yeah, my journey started there, and she introduced it to me and was sort of telling me all these things about herself. She was actually a mental projector, which is a very different projector, but still of the same concept. And from understanding her design and hearing different parts, and I was going, oh, this sounds really interesting. And as a projector would, we don't just go half into things. Like, we go all the way in, and especially when something lights us up, especially when something grabs our attention. And that's what happened is I then just started to divulge. And I think, again, being a projector, our way of sort of learning is also by learning everybody else around us, so we can understand who we are. Especially I have what's called, and you have as well, the undefined G center, and that allows even more for you to be able to understand other people, go into their personality types, and really understand then yourself as a reflection from that. And it's not a comparison, it's just being able to see from the other side, basically, because we are, as projectors, very zoomed out. So yeah, that was the start of my journey. And there wasn't anything, I suppose, in terms of my personal life, I've not really thought too much. I was really in the mix of a journey. I'd been through something quite traumatic a couple of years prior to that, or a year prior to that sort of thing. And I was sort of working my way through that, I think. And then I was sort of got into a relationship as well where I felt like I'd found something amazing, but then actually was still on a route to discovering myself as what most relationships are, which we understand they are this mirror for you. And I'm just so blessed for that moment, because being able to find human design has really been able to reshape and change my life in so many ways.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that. How have you now applied human design to your own life, or did you start to apply it to your own life and go, oh, wow, I found out when I found out I was a projector, it changed everything. It made so much sense. It was like a permission slip to be who I was, because I was always like, I never quite fit in any boxes. Like, what's going on with me?
Yeah.
Why am I so different? And then when I found out I was a projector, it was like, oh, wow, that makes so much sense.
Yes. Yeah.
So for you, how did you start to apply it to your life?
Yeah, I had a very similar experience. Growing up, I was surrounded by a type that's called manifesting generators. I had my mum, my uncle, and my nana, who were my three kind of like leaders. They were my people around me, all manifesting generators. And I think, as you know, you've been around manifesting generators, you know the energy that they hold, which is this super dynamic, loud almost in a sense, energy that when you are a projector, it's not that it's a less powerful in any way. It's just that it's different. We operate slightly differently. So I, because I'm so open as well as a projector, I only have 2 defined centers. I was being molded as a manifesting generator and thought that was sort of the correct way to be, which the common qualities of a manifesting generator are to be very busy, like keep going, like literally have energy, like boom, bada boom, bada boom. I always describe them as like a buzzing bee, basically. A buzzing bee that's spinning all these different plates. They are constantly putting their fingers into pies all the time to test and trial things. And specifically my mum, she didn't have what's called the charisma channel. So she was somebody that did start a lot of things and loved to be able to do lots of things, but never really finished a lot of things as well. So I took that on, which was actually almost a bit of a detriment to that. So yeah, I was living in this design of what wasn't myself. And then as soon as I found that I was a projector, I literally felt like I'd taken off, like I got a weighted blanket on me, and I just went, because this real part of me, this curious part of me, this quiet part of me, especially because I'm a Leo moon, Leo sun, like Leo Mercury, like I'm a lot of Leo, you know, and so I've always been a very kind of out there performing, hence the acting, like, so it's always been a bit of a weird one where there's been this inner dialogue that's gone on, this inner part of myself that's very deep and wants to go all in and is very intense, that I've kind of brushed off because it hasn't really been the way to be. So as a projector, as you know, the aura of a projector is to be focused and penetrative. So again, if you think the difference of a manifesting generator, which is enveloping, like their aura is very magnetic and enveloping. So a description of that would be as if we were to walk into a room and you've got all your friends and they're all there or whatever like that. Most of them are generators. They're all vibing, like, you know, they've all got this, if there's a manifesting generator, they'll all be around the manifesting generator, like almost feeding off their energy, like doon, 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 like all this. Soon as
I love all your, there's always sound effects.
Yeah, but there is when you're a right brain, like, so we'll talk that as well, like, that's my way of describing is that, because I know you get me, right?
Yeah, I
you
do.
know what I'm talking about. I don't always need to use words to kind of get me. It's so funny.
I always use my hands. I'm the hand person.
Oh, God. Mamma mia. No, like, I'm sure it's definitely come through from my Sicilian roots as well. But yeah, so if a projector was to walk into that room, they would be very noticeable in a way that's like, whoa. Because they have this penetrative energy, they're seen as people either love them or hate them in a sense, like, and bear with me on this one, because because they see truth so quickly and they look straight through you. Some people don't want you to see their truth. Yeah, exactly. And others are like, oh my God, this is the most seen I've ever feel. And I know you can relate to that as well, right?
Yes, I can.
It's just because, and that's how you get people that then are like, oh my God, I need more of this. And then they become attached, and it's like that kind of thing. So again, if you can imagine the way that those energy types work, and even for us to be able to get into what we need to do, having some focus as well is huge. And for me, I never had that. I wanted to do all these things, but they weren't really available to me growing up. So I would kind of just do what my mum did, which is like do a bit of this, that. And because of that, I never had anything that I really focused on, which I really grappled on. So again, this is something for any parents out there who've got projected children. Make sure that they have a focus on something, because they need that. They need that coming back into themselves. But yeah, that was sort of like, I suppose, how it's kind of integrated into my life. And I now see it from, I've done everybody around me. They're human design. So I can see.
You just whip mine out when you need it.
I literally was sat there. I was like, let me just check yours again. I was like, oh yeah. And I can. It's almost like
speed dial.
Literally, I can see you in a different. I do. I see you in a different. It's like and especially because I'm vision. Like I'm an inner vision person. So are you. We're very visual. So you see things. When that happens, it's like, oh, I'm seeing a different. There's like this different side to you almost. There's this other. It's not a different side. It's just a more of you. It's a more cracked you open a little bit more. Yeah.
So I'd love for you to share a little bit more about all the energy types and the different designs that there are, and how each, I suppose, are different to each other, and how they interact as well, if you're able to share that. I know there's a lot we can dive into, but I think if we start there to give everyone a bit of an overview of human design and the different types, so they can start to maybe investigate for themselves if they want to.
100%, yeah. The way I sort of give it, so which is fairly simple. So you have 4 general human design types. Now, I always say, like, I don't like to generalize them at all. And I always find it very difficult to generalize, because there's always some level of contradiction that you can have in it, because everybody has such a detailed human design. Everybody is so different. So you have your energetic blueprint, but then what you also have is the life that you've lived in this, because your energetic blueprint is all based off of the time that you were born, and dates where it's all based off of, which means it's like a snapshot of when you were born, and you come into the universe with that, and then you live your life. And depending on, like I just said to you as well, my conditioning and the programming and everything that I had around me wasn't conducive to actually my human design. So because of that, I got conditioned in that way. So that's what I say when you have your life and then you have a human design, and how that's responding. And that's where the real intrigue is, to see what's going on, because you're like, okay, well, this is me, and this is also me, because this is you. And you will have discovered other things that you might not have discovered in certain ways. And that's just life, that is just like how life is. So you have that. So yes, as I said, so there's 4 general types. We've got a generator, which is 70% of the world. You've got a projector, which is 20% of the world, a manifestor, which is 9% of the world, and a reflector, that is 1% of the world. So at the minute, most of the world is filled of generators. And you see that because these are people that are the builders. They are the people with the sacral energy. And the sacral energy is the one that is your battery pack. It's like the Duracell bunny, like ready to go. They need to burn their energy out in the day so that they can sleep at night. When we spoke about manifesting generator, this is like a version of the generator, which is, we say like a hybrid. Is about 30 to 40% of generators are manifesting generators. Okay. These people have the ability to manifest things whilst being able to generate as well. So they've got the energy to go, but they also have qualities where they're able to manifest things very quickly as well, which is a very dynamic and probably the most desired design, I would say, in the society that we live in right now, because obviously everybody wants to be able to have all the energy in the world and also manifest things very quickly, and they have this ability to kind of do that naturally. The projectors there are the people that will sit alongside, so they are the guides of the world. So they are likely that you would sit them in and go ask them questions, say, okay, so what do you think about this? And then they might zoom out and go, well, actually, maybe if you do this and that. And that's where a projector sort of stands. So the projector stands alongside the generator, and also I would say the manifestor. So the manifestor, which is the 9% of the world, very similar to a projector because they don't have the sacral energy, but they are quite different in the sense that they are the initiators. So none of the other designs have the ability to necessarily initiate things. They are the ones that can go, and they use it by informing. So they will say, like, right, let's do this, and they'll just go with it. Whereas a generator, for example, would need a response. So they would need you to say, okay, how about this? And they go, yes, no. So it's a different kind of energy. So you've got the generators, and you've got the projectors, the manifestors, and then you've got the reflectors, which are the 1%. Very rare. Very, very rare.
I have a friend who's a reflector.
Yeah, and how do you feel about them in terms of their energy?
Great. Seen. I feel very seen in her company. And I would say she's got a lot of energy everywhere all the time, I would say. Yeah.
It's interesting because the reflectors are so fluid. So they don't have anything which is like a defined center. They are all open, apart from obviously they've got certain gates that are activated, but generally they are open. They are very much a creature of environment. So they really mold with the environment that's around them. And that's kind of their skill, is that you might see them have like a million different sides because they really mold, and they are basically this mirror to you. Very fluid, but very different to all of the rest of them. And they've got this other, like this added, I can't even describe what that is, but it's like an added extra layer of kind of almost like what it would feel like if someone was a bit sort of closer to source, in that sense. But doesn't mean that they're necessarily tapped into it, because again, conditioning, but they just have this ability to have this extreme wisdom as well. A really good example of that is, do you know Teal Swan? Have you heard of Teal Swan? So she's like a big in the spiritual world, and she coaches and talks about so many different things, but has such a clear and interesting perspective. And she is a reflector. Okay. And Sandra Bullock, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Which is fun. But again, you see it
I love
through.
her. She's a great actress.
She is. She's very good. So those are the 4 different types, and the way that they work, like I said to you, a generator is this energetic. They need to burn their energy out. The projectors are the guides. They sit here alongside, and they kind of guide the generators, and then the manifestors as well, because the manifestors are very much people that they like to be alone. They have their own little rhythm that goes on as well, and they are somebody that packs a punch when they do, and it's really exciting when you're with a manifestor, because it's very like, oh my God, like everything is possible. Like that's how it feels like, in a way. And obviously, if that's a manifestor, again, that's leaning into what their manifesting qualities are. Because, again, there's so much where you may not be living into those parts of yourself. And that's the whole part of the discovery, you know, being able to see what it is. You know, when I do my sessions, I do a reading, which is, again, to inform people about what they are. But then the real sessions that I absolutely love, and we've done it before, is the integration sessions. And it's the ones where you are able to see those almost 2 sides of yourself, which is this energetic blueprint, and then also this life experience that you've had, and see how that kind of integrates and how that's been. And it's just the most satisfying thing when things start to make sense and they unlock. And it's a wonderful, wonderful feeling. But what's your experience? Because I never knew about your experience with human design, and where did you find it initially?
Yeah, so I was 30 when I discovered, of course.
Yeah.
And that was the year that I had my second son, and I felt like I'd created all of this success. I'd done all these things online, you know, to the outward world. That external validation was definitely there, but there was this internal part of me, like you were talking about before, that was like, I wouldn't say it was an emptiness, but I was feeling unfulfilled. I was feeling something was missing. There was a part of me that I wasn't bringing out, I wasn't acknowledging. And so a good friend of mine, Kesley, who, you know, she'd just gone down the rabbit hole of human design, and she was like, Priscilla, I reckon you're a projector. Do your chart. Yeah. And I was like, okay, do my chart. And as soon as I found it, I definitely went down the rabbit hole as well. And having such a close friend who was already in the rabbit hole, we bounced so many ideas. And finding out finding out I was a projector was a game changer. Yeah. Because I finally realized why I operated so differently, why I saw things so differently, why people would constantly come to me to be mentored or guided or just want to be around me. Yeah. And it all just started to click unlock, as you were saying. Yeah.
And you have the profile 5 as well, which is like, you kind of see this like the government. It's almost like that. It's like you see it from this higher perspective of higher power going, okay, this is what we need to do for the world right now, which also means that there's this other level of people that have a profile 5. Generally, other people come to and they're like, help me, like this, and you have to, and so it's another level of that. And so much about people that have got profile 5 is that they need to be careful and not basically helping everybody because otherwise you've
I've
got
been
no
caught
energy
in
for
that
yourself.
before. Yeah.
Exactly. And so did you find with your experience that it changed your kind of work life, your family life, like everything around you? How did it change for you?
Yeah. And I realized that I had a lot of manifesting generators in my life as well. Husband, one of my sons, the other one is a generator. So my interactions with them changed. I learned to work with the energy a lot more. Definitely work. I started to bring in my spiritual, splenic, intuitive side so much more into my work because, again, it was like that missing component. I knew I was so intuitive. I've been, psychic medium, whatever you want to call it, from a young age. And I felt like I was kind of putting that in the closet and locking it up because I was like, no one needs to know about that. Whereas I finally allowed myself to bring it into my business and I really merged all aspects of me, which was really, it was so awakening, I would say. Like I just felt so seen within myself, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Oh my God, totally. I think that's it, isn't it? It's, again, as like I said earlier, projectors have the ability to see others. Like it's, okay, am I allowed to swear on this?
Go for it.
Basically,
over 18's episode.
What I would call it is, like a lot of people have like a bullshit barometer.
Yes.
Well, okay. They don't have a bullshit barometer. I call it a bullshit barometer. And basically there's a lot of people who will come in and they'll give you this or whatever. They'll give you, and some people are very convincing. But as a projector, it's like you get like, I had a situation with somebody last year and I was having to work with them and I was like, oh, okay, great. And I just knew, and there were so many aligning things with it. And it was almost like there was this mirror being shown to me. There were so many aspects of it that I was like, oh my God, I need to understand what this is and why this person's been brought into my life and all this. But the thing is, at the start, I went, something don't feel right. I was like, and I knew it from the start. And I was like, okay, but life wants you to take you on this journey. I was like, all right. But having the awareness and trusting my gut from that feeling allowed me to not be, I suppose in a way, be prepared for that. That's what awareness does. The reason to be aware of things, because so many of us are going naively through life, and then it hits you and like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. Oh my God, da da da. And we kind of want to get to a place where we go, well, yeah, that makes sense that that's happened. That's amazing. I kind of understood that, but I'm also loving this experience because this is new also. So it's getting those two sides of it. And having that awareness allowed me to, I think what you see the difference in that is the reactions. So
like we were talking about earlier, not to go into detail with that.
100%. Like it's about being the observer. When you're able to sit in a place of observation, and whilst being present at the same time, you're able to see what's really going on, the truth of things, and not get caught up in the reaction. And that's what so much of like life is that people are just reacting all the time. And we need to not necessarily do that. Is do it with intention, do it with with a follow through of what needs to actually be done. So I think there's been so many different situations when being this so we're splenically led, right? So we are what's called, so it's the spleen. So you have basically the way that the body graph is set up, it's almost
I was going to ask you that. Do you want to go through the chakras quickly?
So
I know there's a few of them.
There's a few of them. There's like a whole body form of one. So the way that it is, when you do your human design, it uses the astrology. So it uses all these 7 different practices: astrology, the I Ching, the chakra system, the tree of life, quantum mechanics, like everything. There's literally everything.
Would you say it's the most modern, I don't even know what you call it, modality? Modern.
Potentially, because the thing is, there's so many modalities. There's so many discoveries that we've had. The thing is, what's common with all of these things is that all we're trying to do is understand our truth, understand who we are and what's speaking, and understand us from an energetic level. So whether it be yoga, meditation, whatever it is that allows you to come back to self in that sense, that's what this is all about. This is what all the journey is about.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny because there are so many people that go and do so many different things. They go and do a human design session, they go the psychic, they go astrology, everything, right?
Yeah.
Which is great because these are all different languages, they're different perspectives that allow us to kind of basically all come back to the same thing, which is me, self, in that sense.
Yeah.
And sorry, what was the question you asked?
We were
before?
talking about the chakras.
Yeah,
and going.
This is my right brain, by the way. So we'll go on to that as well soon. I get like, woo! I'm like on having a pie in my head right now. The chakras are, so when you do human design, you get what's called a body graph, and the body graph it basically looks like a human body, but then it has the chakras in all the different areas. So you've got your head, your anya, your throat, your G center, your heart, your sacral, your spleen, your solar plexus, and your root. So you've got all of these different areas, and certain people have them activated and certain people don't. So when we talk about that, it's either defined or undefined. And these areas all just play into other parts. They're all just little bits and pieces of things, because then you have channels, you have gates, you have profile, you have...
There's so much.
It's highly detailed, and I think that's what I related to. Yeah. I also related to with this is that I'm somebody that doesn't really like rules. I don't like rules. Like, not that I'm a rule breaker.
Is that a projector thing?
No, I mean, I think it's just the fact that you have perspective of being able to see outside of what is, you know, because the reality is rules are just there. Rules are really, we should see rules as foundation. They're a foundation for you to feel safe. That's it. Yeah. But once you feel safe, you can go break them. Like, that's what you want to do, because...
Who's coming after you?
Exactly. We live in a free world.
Yeah.
As much as people would say that we don't, we do. Energy is free. It is all there. And the more empowered you become within your own energy, the more you will feel free. You can feel free in the most trapped scenarios, and trust me, I've been in them. And I know, and I feel, and I felt, and I've gone like, it doesn't matter. And it's those moments. So that's the ideal, what we always try to come back to. But these different chakras, or we call them centers in human design, they all play different parts. So what I was mentioning earlier, so both Priscilla and I are led by our spleen, which is the first awareness center that was discovered, which is all to do with survival. So if you go back to caveman days, it's that natural fight or flight, you know. Put it this way: if you're in a dangerous situation, you want to be with me and Priscilla, because we know what we got to do, right?
Yeah.
We're very much tuned into our spleen, so that we can basically let go, so that we can basically go into a situation and not fear everything that's potentially going to happen, because we can go in knowing that when we're there, if something does happen, we know that our intuition is just going to kick in, and we've got to go with what we go. That doesn't mean being reckless and going in and just like, well, I can just, you know.
I've got a superpower. I'll be fine.
Let me just try and jump off this building. And so, no, it's not going to work like that. But it will give you the freedom to feel like you don't need to worry. So generally people that have an undefined spleen worry a lot. They have a tendency to worry, and this is why you'll probably find this quality a lot in reflectors that are not necessarily aware of themselves, because it's a very, you know, safety's our biggest thing, man. Like everything that we go into, everything that we do in life is all down to our sense of security, sense of safety that we feel. If you don't feel safe or secure in any way, and that can be emotionally, that can be physically, in any way, it will change you. And I think that's why it's so highlighted. I think that's why we see it so much in reflectors that are not necessarily there, because obviously they have all of those centers open, but their spleen, you know, with it being such a, again, in the society that we are led by fear, so much of society is led by fear. It's a real, it comes out on top, basically. You'll feel it a lot in people when they don't have an undefined spleen, because the worry is there. Like, my partner won't mind me saying, but when I first met him the first day, I knew he'd got an undefined spleen, just from the way his dialogue, the worries that I found out that he got like a fear of flying, And I was like, interesting. Like, you know, because he was quite an evolved person, like in terms of his maturity and everything. And then he's got this fear of flying. I was like, how's that work then?
Yeah.
How can you be like that? And then you've still got that. And I was like, okay. And then there's all these different aspects to it as well. But there's nothing wrong with it. I think this is something that I also want to stress, is that there's no design better than the other. There's literally, people are like, oh, which is the best design, or, you know, who can I be with partner wise, like relationships wise. There are definitely ones that would feel better around, and you will feel, and there are ones that you will feel maybe a little bit more tension with, but honestly, anything is possible. And that, coming back to what I was saying, is that is why I love this particularly, because anything is possible. All the contradictions are. And so what I love is when you ever have anyone that's trying to fight your corner on it, and not that I'll ever fight back, because if someone doesn't want to hear about human design, I'm not going to.
You need to be invited.
I need to be invited. Exactly. So I won't go there. But what I do love is that I kind of can't give them an answer, in a sense, because the answers are within. Well,
that was so moody.
I know. It was so true.
The actress in you.
Yeah, I know. Sorry. It doesn't switch off. But what I really genuinely mean about that is that you can find a contradiction for anything in that. And that's why it's so important that whatever you do is motivated from a place of truth. And you will find the truth in that. When you are motivated from that place of truth and you are wanting to find the truth, you will find it. If you want to be proven wrong or right about it, you will be. That's how it will be. And that's what I love about it, is it kind of trumps all of those sort of, but like how people are, when they're skeptic about astrology or something like that, they're like, the Aquarius, I could be an Aquarius or a Leo today, like, that kind of thing. It's like, mate, that's your sun sign. Like, that's just your sun sign, like,
all the other planets, all the other.
And then you got human design, you got the I Ching, the chakra, like, it's so detailed. And that's, again, what I love about it, is that there were so many layers to it. There's so many incredible layers to it. And it's been a wonderful journey, and it keeps giving over and over again. I'll do it because, again, being a projector and obviously being a coach as well, you look at so many other human designs, and I love it when I have a thought, right, I just need to look at my own, and I'll go back to it. And even though I know and see all of the things in it, I'll discover something new that feels new, because naturally when you go to stuff like that, and I always say it with my clients, don't worry if you don't take on all the information that I'm going to give to you, because you would generally only pick up about 3 or 4 things anyway, because there will be something in that moment that you need to hear. And you'll find that with any of these practices, like anything. You'll go to a psychic like 6 months, and then you'll go there 6 months after, and they give you something different. It's because what they are giving you right now is what you need to hear. And as a human design coach, and also somebody that's very in tune with my intuition as well, that's also what happens. We turn up for that present moment. Yes. And that's what it's all about, really. Yeah. The centers work so interesting. I don't think we touched on what spleen then kind of goes into our lives. So I spoke about that it is the awareness center. It is to do with survival. But the way that this works in our lives, so in human design, like I always say this as well, if there's 2 things you can learn about human design, it's going to be your strategy and your authority. And it's pretty, like, these 2 things are quite basic, and these things will make a difference to you daily if you do them. And we are led by our spleen. So we are led by this splenic area that when we are basically wanting to find answers or something like that, we have to tune into this part of us. Yeah. Now, there are different bits that come in for our authorities. So you've got the split, you've got sacral can be an authority, you can be emotionally led, which is your solar plexus, and splenically led as well. And there's lots of other ones as well. But the spleen specifically is a very spontaneous, intuitive center that allows us to, we have to listen to it, and it's very quiet sometimes, but you have this feeling. And the way to do that is that word I just said. It's a feeling. It's like all of a sudden the feeling changes. It's a different feeling. And that's what I talk about, when we talk about how this changed your business and life. When you lean into that part, you know that that's the part of you that is your authority, and that is what's speaking. You lean into it and you hear it. And when you do, and I know you can see this as well, wow. Like you let go, and so much of the spleen is to trust, because again, it's about being very present in the moment. It's about just allowing that anything can come up and anything is possible, and you're kind of ready for it whenever it will come up. And that in today's society can be quite a hard thing, because so many people have got what looks like their life, you know, all their shit together basically. And I mean, that's not true also, by the way.
Yeah.
But that's what social media promotes as well. You know, there's so much on social media that promotes this kind of lifestyle that is not necessarily true. And so we think that we have to think and plan forward for all these things. But if you're splenically led, mamma mia, like that's not what you want to do. Like you need to like,
I'm just like nodding like,
yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
It can really come out of nowhere sometimes, but when 100%. You know, you know.
Exactly. And it's a feeling. And the only way you can get to know it is by practicing with it and understanding the times in which you have felt it. And the feeling of it will be almost a bit like a 0 to 100 moment. That's how I've recognized mine. And I think it may also be
just so certain.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like this unshakable certainty, and it's not always powerful like that. It's like sometimes quiet, but it's so deep.
Yeah, because when you said certain, that I think that can be seen like, oh, well, I never get that certain feeling. A lot of people would think, but actually it's about practicing that also. It's about practicing and understanding if that is the certain feeling. And then once you become more aware of that, yes, that feeling was the certain feeling, and you'll get it, because you'll maybe make mistakes where you didn't follow it, and then you see it and you're like,
yeah.
And you know. So then you know for next time what that felt like. And then you just got to keep playing with it. And also just don't give yourself a hard time about it as well, because this is a journey that you have to discover. You're meant to make all the mistakes that you're meant to make anyway. So just let go of all of that stuff. Like, you know, biggest lesson in life is just surrender. And I know that's like, to most people, like, what? I need to, but surrendering is the most powerful tool that you can have in anything that you do, because it activates the same energy as forgiveness. So when you forgive somebody, when you feel, so forgiveness and gratitude, if you think about the same energy plane that those two operate on, it is the same as surrendering, letting go of something. Because you'll always find the moment you let go, you have that emotional release or whatever, you clear. It's almost like the calm before the storm. The thunder comes, it crashes, it goes quiet, and then just nicely the sun will just then come back up again. You know, so that happens in Australia, obviously. Like, I don't know if England it happens, but come to Australia and you'll experience that with the weather. But yeah, it's that feeling that surrendering will do. And when you're working with your design, it's new to you. You've just got to be gentle with yourself. You've got to be prepared to, look into it, go into find all these different aspects of yourself, and then also let go of it as well. Because the moment you just rule your life through this, no, but the human design says I should do this. No. We don't do that. We don't. This isn't the rule book to follow. This is a rule book that you can interact with, and that is there for you as a guide, is there for you to test. And it's a toy. It's a toy that a child would play with. You know, it's that.
Yeah.
I think
it's that self-discovery and constant self-discovery. I feel like you said earlier, I constantly go back to my chart and discover new things about myself, or I dive deeper into an aspect of myself. And it's that playful energy. And I think when, even just in life in general, when you play more, when you have fun with it, when you be fluid, when you surrender, you do discover more out of life. You do get more out of life, I believe. So
100%. Oh my God, 100% for sure. And you have to, like, you think of it like a kid, like the way that they're discovering is just through play, and it's through imagination and having no expectations. And genuinely, this is the secret of life, is that we're missing again, is that when we get older, that we don't do that. We don't tap into our inner child enough. We don't accept that everything and anything is possible. And I know that sounds so fairy-like, and it sounds like I've got
and cliche, because social media now, everyone's talking about it, but it's like, literally, when you've lived it and experienced it, then you understand that. And it happens. I got fogged in yesterday, like fogged in. And then all of a sudden, like, you know, like brain-wise, like energetically. I was like, we're in Brisbane. Where was the fog?
No, not quite.
Just
not
your
literally.
house.
Just my head. Just the cloud around my head. But you get fogged in, and then something lifts, and then you have to allow yourself to But in order to do the lifting, you have to surrender first. You have to let go first. You have to breathe, and you have to just go through it. And then all of a sudden, I was like, oh my God, it's like I've clicked clicked back in again. And it's like a computer malfunction that happens, because essentially that's what you're doing when you're going through, when you discover your human design for the first time as well. You'll go through a whole heap of reconditioning, reprogramming, because you will have programming from other areas of your life. Like I had manifesting generator. I had to decondition these areas of myself. I had to not play into it. Like example being, another one is, although this is quite a good example actually, from a perspective of where I saw it happening. So again, my mum really won't mind. I always did this in my readings. I'm like, don't worry, my mum won't mind the analogies. So my mum is a manifesting generator, and she's emotionally led. So she is lit up like a Christmas tree, literally. Like everything is lit up apart from her root center, and her root center is completely open.
Would that make sense why she never completed things?
Yes, potentially. There's also conditioning around self-worth area.
Okay.
That didn't play into action, and that's another aspect where you are fixed and you have a center that is defined, but yet because of the conditioning and the program you've had, it sticks. And actually, when you are fixed and defined in an area, it's actually harder to recondition than it is if you're open. So you have to work on it even more. So, I'm super proud of my mum, because she is honestly,
she's wonderful.
She's like,
I've met her mum.
Yeah. She's been through it, and
Yeah.
we've all been through it as a family. Like everyone looks at us and like, oh my God, you guys are like so amazing together. I'm like, we have done the work, and we are still doing the work. Like, and it's doing that, and I'm blessed for that. I'll do the work 10 times over, because it means that I can live the rest of my life being more free with my family. And I think that's something that so many people want as well. And human design was definitely a part of that, because I got to understand where everybody was. So the things that I would get annoyed at my mum or whatever, these are aspects of her where she's emotionally led as well, and I'm not, you see. So I would very much feed into, I would hold all of her emotions. She would put that all, she didn't know that she was putting it on me, but because I'm a projector, I'm comfortable for people to hold it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, again, everyone always used to say, and this is also, again, interesting, me and my mum are so similar. They're like, oh my God, you guys are so similar. I'm like, well, yeah, we are. We love similar things, we love, like, most things. We love going out for coffees, we do all of these things, like very similar things we like, but our energy types are extremely opposites.
Yeah.
And understanding that, again, was so crucial in our relationship, because we both started to lean into it. I would tell mum about certain things about myself where I'd be like, yeah, but mum, remember this. And now the way that we work is so beautiful. And it's interesting, again, because just understanding that with my mum has also now played into romantic relationships, because my partner's also an emotional manifesting generator.
Yeah.
So it's allowed me to see that work. So it's just,
there's so much.
It's so much, and it's just so rewarding. It feels like a lot, and it is. And I think certain aspects, again, you can fit into. There are a lot that for a projector, because society's not necessarily built up for you in a way that feels great for you. You can slip into victim mentality lots of times. You've got to be careful of stuff like that. But that's, again, a whole part of the journey. Going back to the root thing, because this is what my right brain does. The root is, so what would happen with my mum is that, so it would mean that anytime, so the root is all about the pressure. It's a stress center. So whenever stress enters the body, it goes there. And if you haven't got that defined, you don't have this, like, there's a part of you that doesn't like to ground, and it's like, so when a difficult situation happens, I need to move. Like, it's like this feeling of like, I can't sit in this situation. Interestingly, I don't have that. I don't have my root defined either. But because I think it was so obvious growing up that my mum didn't have that defined, I would go the opposite, and I would define, and I worked and conditioned myself based off what I was seeing, going, no, I don't like this uncertainty, almost this kind of feeling of like, whenever shit hits the fan, like you have to flee. And I was like, this doesn't feel right, I need to ground. So I worked a lot subconsciously, I didn't realize I was doing it, to ground myself in. So that's another aspect of where you see something happening, and then you kind of go, actually, it's not really happening that way, and you do it yourself, you figure it out yourself, and for that I have more of a steady hand. That being said, I still feel it all. So even though I have this awareness of it, I still feel that feeling of like, oh, like this, and then you calm and then relax. And as you work through it, the reaction of that, the impulse of that gets less and less and less and less, because the more and more that you trust. But yeah, for relationships, it's eye-opening. It's amazing. You see a different side of people. I think for anybody that's in a relationship where they're feeling a little bit stuck in and they don't know, but they feel like it's something that they should still pursue in that, looking into these areas. You know, I'm massive for anybody that does couples therapy or anything like that, because I just think it's useful. It's useful for you. And I think that relationships also, like I said, are actually more about you than they are the other person. Massive. And I think that's so wild to say, because I think when you come into a relationship, you have to then consider this other person, and you do 100% have to consider them. But they are so much, that relationship, what that gives is so much for you. There's so much in that for you, and you have to understand what that is in the right ways.
And yes, definitely. Yes. I was just thinking about a few things.
Yeah, of course.
My cogs were turning.
Yeah, of course.
I love, obviously, being inspired founders. We have a lot of entrepreneurs listening to this podcast. I mentioned how human design really drastically changed my business, how I was as an entrepreneur. Even my programs and offerings and what I did drastically changed. What would be your advice or like key tips to any entrepreneurs listening who really want to dive into their human design, and maybe what they should be looking for, be aware of?
Yeah, definitely. I think, again, it's about knowing yourself. If the way you work, the thing about an entrepreneur is you can do what you want to do. And that's the beauty. And that's why most entrepreneurs do it, because they don't want to work for somebody else. They want to they've got what they've got, and they know how they want to work, and they want to do it. Now, that's the intellectual side of it all. So we intellectualize things like, okay, that sounds great, let's do that. And then actually sinking that into your body and integrating that into your work is the next level. I remember when I was going through the transition of freelancing from, like, when I was becoming basically full-time acting, and then I had the human design that was sort of on the side as well, which, you know, was wonderful. But doing that transition, it was hard, because you're so conditioned to how society is and how society wants you to work, which is that, you know, you've got to get up at a certain time in the morning, you've got to have all your thing planned out, all of that sort of stuff. Now, yes, those things are there to help you, and for sure it gives you a contrast, but it doesn't always play into your best energy either. And I think that's so important. Understanding these parts of yourself and how you work will allow you to approach being an entrepreneur, approach your business in a way that suits you. And essentially, that's what people are buying into. When you're an entrepreneur, it's all about you anyway. And so if you can live truthfully into what and how you work, you will help others without realizing as well. You know, again, something where, and we speak about it again because everyone wants different things as an entrepreneur. And there are obviously a lot of people that are projectors, for example, like you said. That how it worked for you is when you tune into the things that are right for you and you works well. Example being, we don't have that sacral energy. Our best way of working is generally like small stints of like 4 hours of like focus, pure focus, and then let go, change it up, do something else. Especially that change up and do something else. I'll touch on the right brain, where I've been mentioning. Right brain and left brain kind of operate in the different ways that your brain works. So the left brain, we live in a very left brain society. So things are very strategic, linear. They happen one thing after the next. Whereas the right brain, I always say, is like a circular motion. It's like this circular, multi-dimensional motion that happens. And anyone that really is mostly right brain, or in my case, quad right, it's like you're on a trip. You know, like, it's like, because everything is
living up here all the time.
Well, but you're also living here. It's like everything has, it's almost like everything has a pulse.
Yeah.
I've never said it like that, and I feel that that's a good way of saying it. Yeah, everything has
Happened
a pulse.
here first.
Yeah. You heard it here first. It's by founders.
What am I? Right brain.
Yeah, your three of yours go to the right, so you're mostly right.
Okay.
So it's this. So right is more receptive. So you're somebody that will naturally, again, it works like a bit like the intuition in a sense. You can let go of yourself and trust that you will pick things up naturally. A good way to example would be right brains don't necessarily need to write notes. So when you're in a situation, right brains they might write notes, but it doesn't really do anything. The things that they need to pick up, they will.
Yeah.
And it's not
I resonate
details.
with that.
It's not details either. So left brain is details. They will be able to reel off a whole story from start to finish, giving you every detail that was in it. Right brain, they may be able to still give you a really great story, but there'll be elements in it that they might go blank on, or there'll be elements in it that really they just pick up and they go, oh, I don't know where that came from. I just plucked it out of nowhere. It's like this information. I'm like, oh, you know, I don't know where that was stored. It was stored somewhere, but it was meant to be stored. So that's how those two different work. Again, in business, if you know this about yourself and you know that you're more right brain, you'll be a bit more the fact that you need to kind of open up the space and go somewhere else, because again, right brain is very tuned into environment as well. If you're mostly right brain, naturally you're somebody that if you're in an environment that's toxic, it will encroach on you a lot harder than somebody that isn't. That's a learning that I'm going through. It's massive, and not that I'm in a toxic environment, but I'm always very specific about when I want to do focus work or anything like that, to be in an environment that feels good. I also don't want to be I don't want that to hold over me either. So I also want to work with that, because I know that that's something that really plays into me, but I also need to do some other inner work on why do I feel like when I'm in certain environments that feel a bit chaotic or whatever, that I can't tune in.
I'm a bit the same.
Yeah. But that's the right brain.
Yeah.
And so again, do you see how you can have certain awareness around things where you go, okay, great, I'm going to work better at this place, and I know that, and that's going to help me. Or you can also look at it as, okay, hold on, this is also something that may be limiting me because I'm right brain. I guess so. A lot of people that are right brain are very sensory. Like I hear, feel, smell everything all the time. So if there's something, and I've had to work with that as well over the years, and that's part of it. So again, another part, like as an entrepreneur, you want to do the best thing that you can possibly do in your business that works. You know, a lot of the time people are entrepreneurs because they have creative ideas, or there's people that want to free up their own time and they want to be in charge of their own time. And being able to know what works for you when you're inspired, when you're not, will do massive things, because you'll let go. Like again, for me, I felt like as an actor, you're always self-grafting, you know, you've got your agent and stuff like that, but there's also parts of you that you need to be out there active and doing things. And I also would have days where I would be like, okay, right, do all the work, sit in front of the computer, because that's what we do. And like, as an actor, I'm like, I don't want to sit in front of a computer. Like, do you know what I mean?
I want to go an actor.
I want to be out, or you know, like I want to be working on a character or something, but instead you have to still be this admin. And so you would do that, and I'd be like, right, okay. Part of me is like, okay, I feel better because I've done the admin, I've done the emails, I've looked on the websites and stuff like that for the jobs. But then really you then score a job and you're like, oh, it didn't come through anywhere of that at all. It like
just
came
magically appeared.
Yeah, it just magically appeared, or I met somebody out at this and that happened, or you know, it was a referral from somebody else.
I feel like that's a projector thing for sure.
I mean, it is, but it's also I wouldn't say it's a projector thing.
It's just an alignment.
I think it's an alignment. Yeah, I think I wouldn't say it was, because that can happen for everybody.
Yeah, okay.
Once you sink into your alignment, and whatever that is for you, you know, because some people need to go out, do things. Some people need to be in and amongst people. Some people need to have like possible business ideas going on in their head. They need to like, there's just different ways that people work. And the more you get to know how you work, the better you will work, and the easier and more seamless and effortless work will be, because that's what we're striving towards. And I think keep that intention in place and do it with those reasons, and you'll find a good outcome.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I can resonate with that, because I feel like it's that ease and that flow that comes with knowing your design. Yeah, that's what I've found in my business. Yeah, totally. Definitely over the last 5 years.
Yeah, and you don't feel guilt. No. That's the key. It's like, because there'll be days where I went, oh my God, I'm just feeling something here. I just need to sit through it. And those will be the days where I get the call, oh, you booked this job. Oh, you booked that job. I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. I did nothing today. I did nothing. Right. Okay.
But that's surrendering, right?
But yeah. And that's part of it. Big part of being a projector also, rest. You know, my favorite part personally. I'm really good at sleeping. It's a skill. But to the point where, like, literally, I didn't even realize as a child I would like, my mum's got a whole section of a photo album that she did for me where there are pictures of me just falling asleep in random places.
I fall asleep everywhere and anywhere.
Yeah. Well, if that's the case, you need to make sure you need to conserve your energy, because if you are doing that, you are extending too much to the point. Because naturally, projectors it takes them a bit of time to actually come down and go to sleep at night.
Oh.
Yeah, you're like,
I'm like, hit the pillow, gone.
So that's true. So I would say, as a projector, to know that about yourself, you're obviously being exposed to too much sacral energy, or there's too much going on. You're overextending there.
Me? No.
What? No way. But again, there are times when, that you may lean into, like the last few months. So I've just recently moved back to Australia from 8 years.
I'm so glad.
Oh,
I'm so glad you're back.
And it's been like a crazy journey. And I knew from September, I have been pretty much living out of a suitcase, because I've been hopping here, going there, but all these places. But I knew that was going to be my case. I knew, and I was working so much. I was doing so much shooting before I came out here. I was working so much, and I knew, I was like, right, sometimes you just got to step back into the manifesting generator as it feels, with the awareness of me being what I need. So I know when all of a sudden I started to get a bit sick or whatever, I was like, just pull it back, pull it back, because you know where this is going. And the sickness is coming from doing too much.
Yeah. And
especially being a projector who needs the sleep. I'm on set getting up at like 4 a.m. in the morning to be on set for like 5, 6. And it's just, and then you're burning the candle. It's crazy. But when those times, so it's like when I have a role, I know that there's going to be focused time, but that also plays into my projector being focused and penetrative. It works because I get energy from that also. But you do know that there needs to be a time afterwards where you also need to rest. And rest, actually, if I don't feel right, if I'm not, it comes at the top. It didn't used to be my priority. Me neither.
Yeah. Me neither.
Do you now? Do you prioritize
I do prioritize it. I do sometimes still feel the guilt, just because I have a lot of things going on.
Massively.
My hand's in lots of pies. But I know as soon as I do rest, or I go for a sleep or a nana nap, I'll wake up to like someone signed up for something, or I've got a job opportunity over here, or someone's jumped on my podcast. Like, when I rest, magic happens.
I love that. It's so true.
It's just that practicing, right? It's the practice of it, and knowing and leaning into the evidence of it, and going, I know when I do this, it does work, and allowing yourself to do that.
Oh, literally, as you said that, because again, so when if you're a projector and then you get another person that's a projector, there's already like a fog that's like lifted, right? So we can see, and because you're inner vision as well, it's like as soon as you said that, I saw everything. It like came to light. Exactly what you meant about the rest. And I would say definitely, again, this has been very projector heavy, but we're projectors, so it's going to be.
That's what we want to talk about.
Yeah, but if you're a generator, manifestor, or reflector, then come to me and I'll let you know about that as well. But I would say with that as well, is that when you allow the rest to happen, it's really important for a projector, because you can feel like sometimes you get to a point, you're doing your work, you're focused in, and then all of a sudden you get, and it doesn't hit.
Yeah, I know.
All of a sudden you hit against, and you're like, no, if I just keep working, if I just keep grinding,
it's like there's a wall, and you keep headbutting it.
Yeah. And you just know when you hit that, a lot of people go, no, I got to keep going through this. But actually, as a projector, because your renewal happens in your rest, because again, it's the surrender, it's the allowing the energy to kind of dissipate. When you do that, you allow something in. It's like when I'm not always checking my phone, I leave my phone, I come back and I'm like, oh, hello there, wonderful emails that have got wonderful jobs on them. And like it happens. So you have to really look at that as well. It's all about working with your energy.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I know there's so much we can go into with human design. And yes, I'm sure anyone who's listening who wants to dive deeper and understand their chart more can reach out to you.
Yep, sure.
And what do you do?
What do I do?
What do you do? What do you do in your sessions?
Yeah, so sessions. So my sessions are, if you want to get in contact with me, just message me on Instagram. I'm very casual with it. Again, a lot of mine come through from referrals. So yeah, don't be disheartened if there's no human design stuff on there. Just a highlights that explains what I do. Don't be disheartened because
Which is actually great at it.
Yeah. It's just like it's a referral thing, and I do it when it feels right, and it feels so much nicer when that happens as well. But
You're invited in.
Hey?
Then you're invited in.
Exactly. So we didn't say that with the projector. It's all about being, you have to be recognized first and invited. That's the strategy part of it. So we did the authority, which is our spleen, and then the strategy is to be invited. So yes, if you head to my Instagram, which is Rebecca Bellavia Official, you'll see all my acting things on there as well. So again, don't be like, who's this girl? And yeah, I do an intro session, which is basically your human design reading. It's usually an hour and a half. It's always a Zoom session, and I get your chart up. We go through all of the bits and pieces, and then I'll send you through, and you can post it on your socials as well, like some like a bit of a discount for this podcast as well for anyone that wants to do an intro. And then I do an integration session. I do children and like parents as well. I do families. And then the integration sessions can be anything from 1 to 10 to however many you need, really, because it's such a deep dive that it takes a lot to kind of go into. So all different sessions there, but if you have any questions at all, just let me know and I will answer them for you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Beck, for joining me today. I'm so glad you're back in the country and in Brisbane. And yeah.
Thank you so much. This has been wonderful. So wonderful.
My pleasure. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much for tuning into this inspirational story. Lucky for you, the inspo doesn't stop here. We have an Inspired Founders Facebook community, a space created just for you to learn, listen, and ask questions from our inspired founders themselves. This unique community is designed to uplift and motivate you to take actions on your own stories and dreams. You'll find the link within our show notes. We can't wait to see you in there.